Every time I drink porridge, I have to grab a handful of dirt and toss it into the bowl. Then I stir it evenly with my fingers. In the end, I wolf it all down in one gulp. It's only because this is our food for the day, barely enough to keep us going. Mixing dirt into the thin gruel makes it filling enough to stave off hunger. But today, I haven't even had a drop of water. Yet I just sit on the ground, not scrambling for the porridge. It's because this body I've transmigrated into is far too weak. I've already used up every ounce of strength just to make it this far. Just as I felt like I was about to breathe my last, my younger brother, Fang Mingyuan, hurried over. Brother, here's half a flatbread for you. He had fought like mad today, just to snatch this one flatbread. The other half he left for the one lying beside him, also too weak to even lift his eyelids. Diane. As for himself, he only drank a bowl of dirt-mixed gruel to fill his stomach. I took the flatbread and shoved it into my mouth, chewing slowly before swallowing, but my brother kept staring at me without letting up. He sensed something off about me today, like I wasn't as resigned to death as I had been the past few days. But soon, his gaze darkened again. What's the use? We're still destined to be beasts of burden. Sooner or later, we'll all die on this riverbank. I had just transmigrated here, so how could I understand all those tangled thoughts in his head? I just stared blankly at the blocked river ahead, the poisoned waterway lost in thought. Days of torrential rain had triggered mudslides, and the silt had completely clogged the Kixing River, and this river happened to be the only route the Emperor's southern tour had to take. Seeing the imperial procession drawing near, yet the river channel hadn't been cleared even a bit. The overseers were frantic as ants in a boiling pot. To deliver a decent achievement to the Emperor, they cracked their whips every day, driving people to work faster, not caring a whit about lives like ours. I stared at that stretch of river, but my eyes gradually lit up. It was because in my past life, I had studied hydraulic engineering. I suddenly grabbed Fang Mingyuan's hand. I have a way to finish the Imperial waterway ahead of schedule. Let me go see the overseer. I can get you all out of here. But who would have thought? My brother's face changed in terror at my words, turning deathly pale in an instant. He shook his head frantically, refusing. Before I could even react, I saw an old man in the distance sidle up to the overseer. Sir, this humble one has a method to finish on time. Please be merciful, and reward me with a full meal. I'll present the method right away. But the overseer, upon hearing this, whipped him backhandedly without a second thought, sending the old man to his knees, begging for mercy on the spot. There wasn't a shred of pity in that overseer's eyes. He kept lashing until the old man went completely silent. Only then did Wai Taishan put away his whip. He even spat at the old man. Old bastard, tired of living, are you? Trying to con me, of all people? Why don't you ask around who Wai Taishan am? If you really had a method, why didn't you use it before? Now you jump out. Do you take me for a fool? I gripped my brother's hand, completely stunned by what I'd just witnessed. If I had spoken up just now, I'd be the one lying there right now. I was still trembling with fear, my calves cramping up in waves. My eyes suddenly flashed with an indescribably strange scene. In that scene, my brother Fang Mingyuan rushed out like a madman to grab a flatbread, but before his hand even touched it, the overseer's beak came to the ground on the spot, and lying beside him, barely breathing, were me and our father. I raised my hand and rubbed my eyes, thinking I was hallucinating from hunger. But the next second, in my vision, several large characters popped up. Skill awakened, heavenly fate compass. As long as I have physical contact with someone, I can view their recent fate trajectory. But the cost is consuming my own lifespan. Current consumption, 3 months of lifespan. I had just finished reading these words, not yet having time to think them through, when a wave of exhaustion surged over me violently. My legs went weak, and I nearly collapsed headfirst. 3 months. This body is already as frail as a candle in the wind. Deduct another 3 months. That's like piling another stone on top of a snowdrift. But no matter what, this was at least a path to change my fate. I forced myself to look up, putting on a confident expression. With a confident look, he turned to his younger brother and said, "Come with me to see the overseer." The younger brother immediately panicked. "Brother, are you crazy? Have you forgotten how that old man just died? Either way, it's death. Might as well gamble treat a dead horse as a live one. Maybe we can still find a way out." The younger brother stared at me for a long while. Finally, he gritted his teeth hard, and followed me to stand before Wai Taishan. I bowed at the waist and spoke, "Sir, this humble one has a matter," but before the words even landed, the whip had already cracked through the air toward me. Luckily, my brother was quick-eyed and swift-handed, suddenly blocking in front of me. Wai Taishan sneered coldly. "What's this? You want to follow that old bastard's example? If you have a way, spit it out. Let's hear it. After you're done, I'll reward you with a lashing. Enough to fill you up." Wai Taishan's gaze was like looking at a dead man, roaming back and forth across my face. The nearby overseers joined in, laughing and jeering. Cold sweat instantly soaked my back, but I knew in my heart, once the arrow is knocked, there's no turning back. If I flinch now, death is certain. I had no choice but to steel myself and bow even lower. Sir, this humble one knows his life is cheap. Dead is dead, not worth regretting. But my younger brother is still young, and my father can barely hold on. This humble one has no other skill. A few years ago, I once learned a bit of divination from an immortal just to scratch of the surface. Before I die, I wish to cast a fortune for you, sir. I only ask that after the fortune comes true, you, sir, might look after my family. Why Taishan originally thought I was about to beg for reward. He never expected I only asked him, after he sealed his official seal, to help protect my brother and father's lives. So he said nothing, staring at me coldly for a long time. My brother stood to the side, his heart nearly leaping out of his throat. He was about to drag me down to kneel and apologize, when White Taishan suddenly spoke. Fine. How do you calculate? Find a quieter place. Let this humble one touch your wrist, sir. White Taishan didn't think much of it. With a casual wave, he shooed away all the resting laborers nearby. Even my brother, Feng Minjuan, was waved off to the side. Then White Taishan extended his thick wrist. Out it came. My fingers trembled, but I still steeled myself and placed them on it. Time crawled forward breath by breath. I kept my face calm, as if nothing was wrong. But inside, I was a mess of panic, afraid that White Taishan would grow impatient, and suddenly yank his hand back. Then my brother and I would truly be finished, right here on this riverbank. Just as he began to tap his fingers impatiently, the scene before my eyes suddenly shifted, as if I was pulled into another place. I saw White Taishan humming a tune as he pushed open his own door. Inside, his beautiful wife had already prepared a bowl of hot medicinal soup. She coaxed him softly to drink a few sips to nourish himself, but White Taishan had barely taken a few sips, when he suddenly clutched his stomach and collapsed to the ground. His limbs twitched like a fish out of water, blood seeped from all 7 orifices. Then another man climbed in through the window. Brother White, rest assured. Your wife, I'll take good care of her for you. White Taishan's eyes nearly burst from their sockets. He stared at them, frozen. Without another word, he stiffened and stopped moving. The scene abruptly cut off. I quickly pulled my hand away. The familiar dizziness pressed down on me again. Another 3 months of my life spent forcibly shaved off. White Taishan pulled his wrist back. What did you divine? But I only cast him a pitying glance, and replied with words that left him utterly confused. Sir, remember this well. Never touch the hot drinks at home. With that, I leaned on my weak legs. Trembling, I turned and walked away. White Taishan frowned, staring at my back. For a long time, he said nothing. In his heart, he didn't believe a word of this superstitious nonsense. He hadn't had a day off in half a month. What hot drinks at home could there be? But that look in my eyes, like I was staring at a dead man, combined with that final cryptic warning, left a heavy weight pressing on his chest. An indescribable discomfort. My brother saw that I had returned safely, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. He never really expected much from me anyway. After all, the original owner was just a decent-looking useless scholar, usually had no real skills to speak of. What use could he be in a life-or-death moment like this? After returning to our resting place, father, upon hearing that I had done to provoke the overseer, immediately tore into me with a torrent of scolding. Midway through his rant, he suddenly gritted his teeth and made a decision that shocked both me and my brother. From now on, you two don't need to share your rations with me anymore. I'll go claim my own. If I can't get any, I'll just starve to death, so be it. Father, don't talk nonsense. I won't abandon you. We're innocent and blameless. It's all those bastards doing. But the moment I finished speaking, the fragments of the original owner's memories suddenly surged up in my mind. It turned out the Feng family were originally well-off farmers in this area, only because, while at the market, they witnessed the Zhao family's young master forcibly abducting a woman in broad daylight, and stepped forward to reason with him. They incurred his grudge. That Zhao family, in turn, curried favor with some powerful figure in the capital. In King County, they had always been an all-powerful, unquestioned presence. Within half a month, the Zhao family bribed every official in the county office thoroughly, and forcibly pinned the charge of colluding with river bandits onto the Feng family. In a single night, all our property was confiscated clean, and so the 3 of us father and sons became slaves. Later, we were worked like beasts on the riverbank. These memories flashed through my mind once. I clenched my fists tightly, until my knuckles turned white. The Zhao family's debt would be settled sooner or later, but the most urgent thing now was to survive tonight first. Silly child, what use is talking about this now? If we can save even one life, that's something. It's not time for utter despair yet. We won't starve to death. I'll get you both out of here, and the other side. White Taishan had just stepped into the shed area where the overseers rested, when he saw several overseers huddled together, chatting animatedly. K, Haharhar, we've been waiting for you, Brother White. The higher-ups are arranging the rotation of rest duties he paused in his steps, but a phrase inexplicably flashed through his mind. My lord, remember this. Don't touch any hot drinks at home. The county magistrate, out of consideration for our hard work, Sir Q, has arranged a day off for each of us. The shed instantly erupted into chaos. These men stare at the river channel all day long, their eyes nearly dried up from exhaustion. Who wouldn't want to return to the city for a breather and some relaxation? But what stunned White Taishan even more was yet to come. Old Wu, holding the roster, cleared his throat and began reading, First day off White Taishan. Whatever Old Wu said after that, White Taishan didn't hear a single word. His ears buzzed with noise, and only one thought churned in his mind. The first one. It really is me. Is this some damn coincidence? A few men laughed lecherously, and grew more excited as they talked. White Taishan's wife, Liu Yuning, whom he married half a year ago, was famously fair-skinned and beautiful in this area. Striking, it had made these rough men green with envy countless times. They muttered behind his back. He didn't know how many times he'd heard it. White Taishan forced a smile, and trudged back to his room with his head down. But once he lay down, he tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep at all. His heart churned with doubt. Impossible. That kid was as weak as a dead dog. Impossible. He knew in advance about Lord Zai's rotation rest plan, but it hit the mark so precisely. This is really damn eerie. The next morning, White Taishan felt as if his feet were filled with lead, and walked home with a grim face. As soon as he pushed open the door, sure enough, he saw Liu Yuning holding a bowl of steaming medicinal soup, greeting him. Husband, you've been exhausted these past few days. I specially brewed this medicinal tonic soup. Drink a few sips to warm yourself up. Sir, remember this well. Don't touch any hot drinks at home. White Taishan took the medicine bowl, his heart alternating between a chill and a tight squeeze. He pretended to blow on the steam casually, and took the chance while Liu Yuning turned around. As he lowered his head to blow on it, he deliberately pretended to burn his mouth. With a twist of his wrist, he quietly emptied the bowl. A few drops of the medicinal broth dripped along the bowl's rim onto the ground. The mongrel dug in the house corked the scent and pounced over, stretching out its tongue to lick the medicine clean off the floor. Not long after, the mongrel dog trembled, collapsed, and began convulsing. White Taishan watched, both shocked and furious, his eyes turning red, yet he still forced his anger down, continuing to pretend he was drinking the medicine, without showing any sign. He let his hand go slack, and the bowl crashed to the ground with a clatter. His whole body went limp right after, writhing in agony as he collapsed fully. Only after White Taishan had completely stopped moving, did Liu Yuning work out from inside, all smiles. Then, a man was seen climbing in through the window. He reached out to grab Liu Yuning's waist, never expecting White Taishan, who had been lying on the ground, to suddenly spring up, grabbing the man's throat in a tight grip. He stared at the man's face, twisted in fear, but in his mind, a flash of that earlier pitying gaze crossed his thoughts. Meanwhile, I was completely unaware of all this. I had been barely holding out on the riverbank for a while now, surviving on just half a ration each day. How could such a pittance sustain this kind of backbreaking labor? Not far off, the overseer Xianxia's eyes darkened. He raised his whip, ready to bring it down on me. Stop. But suddenly, White Taishan's roar came from behind. Xianxia froze on the spot, turning around in shock. Brother White, weren't you supposed to be on your rotation break? White Taishan brushed it off with a casual excuse. I'll tell you about it later. What he did next left everyone utterly dumbfounded. He actually bent down and respectfully helped me up from the ground. Sir, are you alright? Let me help you rest. The moment those words left his mouth, Xianxia was completely stunned. Everyone knew that White Taishan's fiery temper was legendary. When had he ever been so courteous to anyone? White Taishan paid no attention to the stares around him, carefully supporting me, as he led me all the way to his own small resting hut. Along the way, all the laborers stopped working, their eyes wide as brass bells. The expressions of my father and younger brother were even more exaggerated, as if they'd seen a ghost in broad daylight. Working ahead, I looked perfectly steady, but my hand inside my sleeve was trembling violently, because I knew I had gambled right this time. Yet in the next instant, a flood of information surged into my mind. Heavenly Fate Compass. It measures the life paths of others, and can also alter one's own destiny. Each time you successfully change another's fate, you can extract life force from their destiny to replenish your own lifespan. You might even trigger additional rewards. Detected. Coast successfully altered target. White Taishan's death tribulation. Consumed lifespan, 3 months. Feedback lifespan, 6 months. Net gain, 3 months. Current remaining lifespan, approximately 11 years and 3 months. So that's how it works. By helping White Taishan dodge this calamity, the 3 months I lost were not only recovered, but I even gained an extra month. This golden finger isn't a consumable. It's capital staked with one's own life. The bigger the gamble, the greater the reward. Once inside the hut, White Taishan immediately pulled up a stool for me. I was about to politely decline, but my vision went dark, and I nearly toppled off the stool. Wai Taishan quickly stepped forward to steady me, then slapped his forehead as if remembering something. With that, he turned and rushed out of the hut. Before long, he returned with a tray of food. The aroma hit my nose, making my stomach clench with hunger, but I didn't dare pick up my chopsticks right away. I watched Wai Taishan rub his hands together, looking like he had something to say but hesitated. I could only take a deep breath and say, "Sir, allow me to fill my stomach first. After the meal, I'll cast a divination for you." Wai Taishan's eyes lit up. He nodded repeatedly. "Sir, please eat first and get your strength back." So I picked up my chopsticks and took small bites, because I had been hungry for far too long. Can't eat too much at once, or you'll definitely end up stuffed. Tu knew that this slow and easy manner in Wai Taishan's eyes would instead become the bearing of a true master. The look in his eyes as he stared at me grew more and more reverent, but for some reason, I hadn't finished my meal. "Sir, could you pack this up to take back for my father and younger brother?" "My brother." He can. Taishan not only found oil paper to wrap it up for me, but even casually stuffed 2 extra flatbreads in. After finishing all that, he couldn't wait to stretch out his wrist. Guess I'll have to consume some beast essence again, but in the end, I still took hold of his wrist. After observing for a while, I didn't see any recent misfortune looming over Wai Taishan, nor any great fortune. However, I did discover an unexpected delight. This time, it actually didn't consume any beast essence. Seems like how much it deducts depends on whether the matter is big or small. I pondered and then spoke. "Sir, you have no major issues in the coming days. Just remember to drink less alcohol, it easily leads to trouble." I thought I could send Wai Taishan off with that, but this guy wasn't satisfied. He insisted I look into his fortune for the next few years, whether he could get a promotion or something. I had long expected he'd come to me for this, putting on airs. I sighed and said, "Sir, to be honest, this business of leaking heavenly secrets, if done too much, invites backlash, and yesterday, to glimpse the calamity of the blocked river channel, I already risked half my life. If I push further now, I'd probably bleed from all 7 orifices and drop dead on the spot. How about you take me to see the overseer? I'll present this method to him. If it succeeds, you'll get a share of the credit for recommending me." If anyone else had said these words, Wai Taishan would have whipped them long ago, but the earlier divination had genuinely saved his life. Wai Taishan pondered for a few seconds. "Fine. Let's go now." Soon, Wai Taishan brought me before the overseer. "Sir, we have a strategy to offer you." Tu would have thought. The overseer's reply nearly scared Wai Taishan into wetting himself. "If the method works, naturally, there will be a heavy reward. But if you try any tricks, and it fails, you both die together." I thought Wai Taishan would back down, but instead, he gritted his teeth. "Sir, I'm willing to vouch for him." This actually surprised Overseer Mar. Then he turned to look at me. "What method?" I immediately told him about the water scouring method. This was a technique used to control the Yellow River in the Ming Dynasty, ensuring smooth grain transport for decades, by narrowing the channel to increase flow speed, using the water's force to naturally wash away silt. Listening to my explanation, Overseer Mar gradually sat up straight, and began pressing me for all kinds of details. In my heart, I silently thanked my professional course teacher from my past life. Good thing I didn't skip class back then. This wave should be solid. Then I asked for a brush, and quickly drew several diagrams, explaining that all the materials needed were common items. Once built, the scouring effect could be seen on the spot. Overseer Mar took the diagrams, flipped them over and examined them for a long time, then grilled me repeatedly on every detail. Finally, he waved his hand. "You two go back and wait for news," and even granted me a rare day off, while he himself hurried off to find the county magistrate. In truth, Overseer Mar had long decided to take all the credit for himself. After all, who would believe words from a convicted prisoner? Even if there was some guarantee from a minor official, what use was it? But he had no idea this seemingly flawless little scheme would become the stupidest thing he ever did in his life. After leaving Overseer Mar's office, I quietly flexed my wrist. Good thing, my grandfather forced me to practice calligraphy for over a decade in my past life. Otherwise, I'd have been exposed today. Turning my head, I saw Wai Taishan looking worried. I patted him on the shoulder. "Since it's a matter of leaking heavenly secrets, heaven knows what's what." By evening, Father had just finished work and came over to pester me with questions. I smiled and waved my hand, telling him to relax. Then I casually unwrapped the packed meal. The aroma of cured meat burst out instantly. "Where did this come from?" "The overseer gave it to me. I've already eaten. You and my little brother should eat it while it's hot." But who would have thought that my younger brother refused to accept the food? Instead, he warily scanned the surroundings. Not far away, dozens of pairs of eyes, green with hunger, had already locked onto us, accompanied by the frantic sounds of swallowing. "Go ahead, eat without worry. The overseer is right there in that shed watching." Everyone followed my gaze, and sure enough, they saw Wai Taishan standing at the shed entrance, bowl in hand. His burly figure radiated a silent threat. making a few who had their eyes on the radishes shrink back again. Father's hands trembled violently. He tore off a small strip of cured meat, the salty fragrance of fat melting in his mouth. His eyes instantly reddened. My younger brother took a fierce bite of the flatbread, chewing noisily, grease dripping from his lips mixed with the meat's aroma. For the first time in half a month, he ate to his heart's content. Father, who had originally planned to sacrifice himself, now had a glimmer of light in his eyes again. My younger brother grinned. Brother, if we could eat like this every day, I wouldn't have to keep fighting for food. He said it lightly, but my heart churned when I heard it. If it hadn't been for my brother risking his life to snatch food these past half month, the three of us would have starved to death long ago. So I looked at him solemnly. From now on, no more fighting. I'll handle it. At the same time, inside the county magistrate's office, Fang, the magistrate, was staring at the urgent report on the river blockage, fuming. Damn it, your majesties, Southern Inspection Fleet must pass through the Jade Belt River in 20 days, but it'll take at least a month to dredge this channel. He looked up at the female official across from him. Lady Hai. You're from the palace. Sent ahead to make preparations for the southern tour. Every detail must be handled with care. The female official set down her teacup. The top priority is to add more workers and work day and night to catch up. All the convicts from nearby counties that can be transferred have been brought in. If we need more, we'll have to conscript commoners. But spring plowing is upon us. Forcibly conscripting farmers might spark a revolt. The crime would be even greater. He didn't finish the rest. If the river isn't cleared, blocking the imperial procession is a capital offense. Forcibly conscripting commoners and causing a revolt is also a death sentence. Magistrate Feng was caught between a rock and a hard place. Just as he was tearing his hair out in frustration, a runner burst in to report that Manager Mar had arrived and requested an audience. Why isn't he at the riverbank overseeing the work? What's he doing here? Since Manager Mar is on the front lines supervising, he might have something important to report. It wouldn't hurt to listen. Let him in. Manager Mar stumbled in, covered in dust. Magistrate Feng was about to scold him for abandoning his post, when he heard him say he had a method to clear the river. Magistrate Feng shot up from his seat. What method? Speak quickly. Manager Mar poured out everything I had drawn, exactly as it was, then pulled out the blueprint and spread it on the table. Magistrate Feng snatched it up. On it, the dam structure and material list were written clearly, the logic sound, the handwriting neat. Magistrate Feng immediately shouted outside, "Hurry, summon Captain Liu and Clark Lai." In less than the time it takes half an incense stick to burn, the two old officials rushed in, sweating profusely. Magistrate Feng pushed the blueprint toward them. Take a look, you two. Will this method work? Captain Liu squinted, studying it for a long time, then muttered a few words with Clark Lai, before speaking cautiously. Judging from the blueprint, this method follows hydraulic principles. It might actually work. Magistrate Feng turned to Pei Yuhan. What do you think, Lord Pei? But Pei Yuhan didn't answer. Instead, he stared at the handwriting on the blueprint, lost in thought. His slender fingers traced lightly over the characters. After a long pause, he muttered an irrelevant remark. This handwriting is quite pleasing to the eye. Then his expression tightened, and he returned to that aloof demeanor. At this point, we have no choice but to try anything, even if it's a long shot. Have Manager Mar start work tonight. The next morning, my one day of leave was officially over. I had no choice but to pick up my shovel again and go dredge the river. But I hadn't been shoveling long, when the overseer suddenly called for a halt. The laborers looked up, utterly bewildered, and saw Manager Mar bowing and scraping. Leading the magistrate of Ping County as he worked over, Pei Yuheng followed half a step behind. Her slender figure flickered in and out of the crowd, drawing the stares of a group of rough men, their eyes going wide. Wai Taishan squeezed in next to me amid the case, and quickly stuffed an oil paper package into my hand. Let him have it, Manager Mar. Told you not to say too much. But I seem to have expected it all along, merely nodding, and calmly taking it. Wai Taishan opened his mouth, but in the end, only let out a sigh, still keeping your cool even when your credit's stolen. If this actually works out, you might even end up silenced. At that moment, I just coldly stared at Manager Mar. Little did he know, he had already stepped right into the trap I dug. Begin, Mar yelled. Don't you dare disappoint this official. Manager Mar thumped his chest, giving his guarantee, then turned to face the riverbank. First group, dig a diversion channel 300 paces downstream. Second group, prepare the willow branches, stone dragons, and sandbags. Build 2 dikes. Narrow the river channel for me. Magistrate Feng eyed those shabby materials, his brows nearly twisted into a knot. Lord Pei, with just these things, can it really work? Whether it works or not, we'll know soon enough. Magistrate Feng, He took the chance to sneak a glance at her slender waist, then reluctantly pulled his gaze away. Manager Mar watched the river's surface gradually tightening. Before his eyes, it was as if the image of Silk being washed away had already appeared. He was already savoring the thought of a promotion letter tucked in his pocket. When the river channel was narrowed to a third of its original width, the water current suddenly shot up, racing wildly, fiercely scouring the blocked river downstream. The murky mud visibly cleared, spreading far and wide. Look, this method is truly miraculous. Even my younger brother was stunned. Only I curled my lips into a cold smirk. The next moment, an accident suddenly occurred. After the water rushed out of the narrow section, it unexpectedly carved out an ever-deepening whirlpool, with insufficient water flow on both sides. A large amount of silt began to deposit along the banks. An old craftsman saw this and suddenly shouted in alarm. The water only scours the middle. The sides are silting up even worse. Manager Mar's smile froze on his face. Continue narrowing the channel, trying to speed up the current, but it was utterly useless. The silt buildup on both sides grew even more severe. By now, Mar Yaud was completely panicked. Is this your solution? I'll definitely refine the method when I get back. And your blueprints, the water diverting positions, the deck slopes, and the drainage hole distribution are all marked in detail. Why are you so flustered in execution? This is my first time building it. Inevitably, I might make mistakes. Confess honestly. Who is the person behind the scenes who devised this? If you dare hide it again, that's deceiving your superiors and subordinates alike, adding another crime to your list. It's Yaoi Fang Yunteng. Soon, I was brought before Magistrate Fang. Did you come up with this method? Yes, I did. However, but Magistrate Fang suddenly changed his tone. The method is good, but it's still far from success. And now very doubtful whether your method will actually work. It will definitely work. Magistrate Feng scrutinized me for a moment, and was about to wave me off to get to work, when I suddenly interrupted. If the method succeeds, can you, sir, exempt my family of 3 from corvée labor? Are you threatening me? I wouldn't dare, sir. It's just that if this method succeeds, the dredging effect can be increased by more than 3 times. With the lives of us commoners, in exchange for His Majesty's fleet sailing unimpeded, it should be a worthwhile bargain. Magistrate Feng stared at me in silence. Just as I grew anxious, he said, Fine, I'll bet with you. If you succeed, not only will I exempt your family from corvée, but I'll also reward you with 50 taels of silver. If you fail, you, your father, and your brother will all be executed. As your words fell, the riverbank fell into dead silence. I raised my head and met Magistrate Feng's gaze. I accept. This set of moves I'm pulling looks no different from what Magistrate Mar did, just following my method step by step. But the thing I'm cultivating, all the tricks lie in the details. Those 2 narrowing walls aren't just stuck there straight and stiff. Instead, they follow the riverbed slope, adjusting the angle bit by bit to carve out the perfect funnel shape, just like scooping water with a ladle, biting straight versus biting at an angle. The skills you use, are they the same? The turbid old eyes of the sorcerer beside him lit up in an instant. Is the idea to let the water spread and rush on its own? White Taishan frowned, looking like he didn't believe the shape of the die could turn everything upside down. He quietly glanced toward the embankment, seeing Magistrate Feng's face heavy with concern, clearly also harboring doubts. Meanwhile, Pei Yuhen's brows were slightly furrowed. This time, his early trip south to handle things was a test set by the Emperor. If this matter gets screwed up, the hard-won future he'd earned would be at risk. Among everyone present, I was the only one with real confidence. This method was a classic case of ancient water engineering. With my shout to start, Yaoi and the others pried open the water-blocking planks. The river roared out once more. Another wave of guests rose from the crowd. Some hoped it would succeed. Some hoped it would fail. Magistrate Mar's face had already turned green. Go back, damn it, go back. The water scoured the riverbed at just the right angle, not only washing away the center, but also carrying off the silt piled on both sides. It worked, it really worked. This speed was more than 3 times faster than before. White Taishan's eyes nearly popped out. Such a simple thing solved it all. That official position should be safe now. Pei Yuhang leaned on the railing, his body unconsciously leaning forward. That curvaceous figure swayed, dizzying to the eyes. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I should have passed this test, right? Straightening my collar, I worked up to Magistrate Feng, bowed respectfully. Your humble servant has not failed the mission. Now, keep your word. Your Fang family's 3 members flogging is waived, and I'll reward your family with 50 taels of silver. Magistrate Mar was hiding behind the crowd. But this credit is mine. You drunken bastard dared to set a trap for me. Sooner or later, I'll make you pay. Just then, Pei Yuheng also slowly walked toward me. That fluffy, mature woman's charm only stirred the fire in one's heart even more. Almost every man's gaze was glued to her. Even Feng Xianli, with his wives and concubines, couldn't help but swallow unconsciously. I thought Pei Yuheng was going to reward me too. But instead, he asked a strange question. The characters on that blueprint, were they written by your hand? Yes, they were. In that case, I'll give you a big gift as well. After Pei Yuheng said this, he suddenly turned and walked toward the crowd. Just as everyone was puzzled about what he was doing, he abruptly drew the blade from the guard beside him. With a clean, swift strike, the blade tip pierced through Magistrate Mar's front and emerged from his back. Then he pulled it out without any emotion. Lord Pei Maryaud is my trusted man. If you strike a dog, you must mind its master, yet you killed him without a second thought. My hand slipped, almost couldn't kill him with one stab. Then he looked at me and said a meaningful line. Remember this? When cutting weeds, you must pull out the roots. This is the great gift I'm giving you. After saying that, he turned his head to Magistrate Feng. Magistrate Feng, what were you saying just now? I just dealt with a fool who deceived his superiors and hid the truth, almost ruining His Majesty's great endeavor. Magistrate Feng, his chest heaved violently, but knowing this woman came from the palace, he couldn't afford to provoke her, so he swallowed his anger. Your Excellency, I believe Lord Pei handled it perfectly. Pei Yuheng smiled faintly, then lifted his foot and walked away. I thought this matter was over. Who would have guessed, as he passed by me. Go back and eat well. Build up your strength. In a few days, I'll come to you for something. I watched his receding figure, completely baffled. If you want something, just say so. Why insist on fattening me up first? That sounded oddly off, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. After explaining the Shushui Palace killing method to Captain Liu, I took my father and younger brother back to the county town. With those 50 taels of silver, we settled into a rundown little courtyard. After a few days of eating and sleeping well, my body finally started to recover. Once I had leisure, my mind began turning over how to live from now on. It had been some days since I transmigrated to this godforsaken place called Dakian. At first, I thought I could use my modern knowledge to make some money, live comfortably as a minor rich man, but the overseer fears the steward fears the magistrate. Layer upon layer of oppression. A wealthy man without power or influence is just a piece of fat. Everyone wants a bite. To stand tall as a man, I'd have to take the imperial exams, but the moment I mentioned it to my father, he doused me with cold water. Back then, we offended a local tyrant, and were falsely accused of colluding with river bandits. And a Dakian lore. 3 generations are barred from taking the exams. Hearing that, I was utterly stunned. So they meant to trap me here forever, a commoner at anyone's mercy. I clenched my fists, unwilling to accept it. Since I could free my family from kiln servitude, I could surely clear this injustice. Besides, I had the golden finger, the faithful celestial disc. Just as I was pondering how to overturn the case, Pei Yuhen arrived, accompanied by a maidservant carrying a zitten wood box. I stepped forward and bowed in greeting, but for some reason, he seemed slightly startled when he saw me. He hadn't expected that after a wash and tidy up, my face could actually hold its own. Standing there, I was no less impressive than those noble scions. Pei Yuheng's gaze clearly softened. Then he led the maidservant in through the door. This time, I've come to ask you for a calligraphy piece. The moment the words fell, the maidservant opened the zitten wood box. Inside, neatly arranged, was a fine set of the 4 treasures of the study. Good thing it wasn't the messy business I'd feared. May I ask what character you wish me to write? Just make it look good. My mind turned quickly. I immediately understood this lord knew nothing of calligraphy, nor did he care for it. This piece was clearly meant as a gift. Someone important enough for him to personally request a piece must be a big shot. May I ask, my lord, is this intended as a gift? Does the recipient have any preferences? The maidservant beside him couldn't help rolling her eyes, a man of lowly birth. Lord Pei asking you to write is already an honor. Yet you nitpick and pry. But Pei Yuheng realized I was trying to tailor it to the recipient. It's for a venerable elder who loves calligraphy and also enjoys mentoring the young. I dared not ask further. My mind began racing. What script style from my past life should I use? What content would be fitting? Pei Yuheng only cared if the characters looked good, but he didn't know calligraphy's essence lies in the harmony of style and meaning. Countless famous masterpieces flashed through my mind, realizing it was spring plowing season, and the gift was for a teacher who nurtured talent. It had to be elegant yet subtle. Suddenly, a poem sprang perfectly to mind. The maidservant, seeing me hesitate to write, thought I was putting on airs, and grew inwardly disdainful. But the moment I set down the first stroke, her eyes nearly popped out. Strokes like carved seals, slants and hooks like blades, a poem in a script she had never seen before, leaped vividly onto the paper. Good rain knows its season right. When spring arrives, it falls, stolen by the wind into the night, moistening all things silently. The maid didn't grasp the poem's meaning. She only felt this one was truly beautiful, with an indescribable air of uprightness and noble grace. Pei Yuheng's gaze fell upon the paper. His eyes faintly lit up. He immediately signaled the maid to carefully roll up the characters and place them in a wooden box. This set of brush and ink is yours as thanks. No sooner had the maid left Then his father poked his head out from the next room. What did that Lord Pei come for? And why did he bring brush and ink? He came to ask for a piece of calligraphy. How could your calligraphy catch Lord Pei's eye? Then wouldn't your father's work be treasured by him as a gem? I smiled faintly, without explaining though these items were worth a fortune. In exchange for one of my Du Fu poems written at Jinting, he was the one who profited. On the other side, Pei Yuhang and the maid returned to their residence, and the desk lay 7 or 8 collected works spread out. I don't know good calligraphy from bad. I only hope one piece will catch hold Su's eye, so he can put in a good word for me before His Majesty, and free me from that awkward, middling position in the palace. My lord, you've been to such trouble to gather so many, surely 1 or 2 will hit the mark. But he was the teacher of 3 emperors. Though retired to his hometown, he's seen countless masterpieces from famous hands. I thought to cater to his taste and get some calligraphy. Now the pieces are found, but I have no confidence at all. Yet the arrow is in the string, it must be shot. For better or worse, I have to send them. Let's see if a blind cat can stumble upon a dead mouse. He had the maid help him organize them. By the fame of the calligraphers, the most promising ones went on top. The lesser known ones were placed below. In the end, only my unknown piece remained. Should I bring this one? The characters just look pleasing to the eye, with an indescribable style. But he's just a newly pardoned convict. No matter how good his writing, how far can it go? Finally, he gritted his teeth and brought it along, tucking it carelessly at the very bottom, and taps at the Hanlon scholars' work. At the bottom lay that utterly unremarkable Jinting piece. Whether luck will strike depends on whether the heavens grant a chance. And the other side, Su Fujian. Old Su was chatting with his granddaughter Su Yunshu. Grandfather, look at this method of using water to attack sand. I heard the Kixing River was cleared this way. Truly ingenious. Even more remarkable, I heard the one who proposed it was a young convict. It's a pity. Such a practical man likely comes from humble origins. He probably can't enter the court. It seems my Yunshu still favors handsome, scholarly young men. They're not getting any younger. You should start taking your marriage seriously. Grandfather, you promised me, if I'm to discuss marriage, the other's talent must surpass Yushu's. Old Su just smiled bitterly and shook his head. His granddaughter's talent was too lofty. She excelled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Ordinary men simply couldn't catch her eye. In recent years, the trend has been lackluster. Not a single inspired poem has appeared in years. Among the younger generation, one who can match you, you'd be hard-pressed to find even with a lantern. Just then, the old steward reported from outside, My lord, Pei Yuhan requests an audience. Since I retired to my hometown, many have sought to use my name as the emperor's teacher to curry favor. It's been utterly vexing. But this Lord Pei is here on imperial orders. It's better to see him, and hear what he has to say before dismissing him. Old Su agreed, for his granddaughter's sake. Before lying, Pei Yuhan entered the study holding a zitten wood box. Unexpectedly, as soon as he bowed, Old Su got straight to the point. Lord Pei, what business brings you to my residence today? Pei Heng didn't beat around the bush. Full of anticipation, he presented the first piece of calligraphy. It's kind of you to find Hanlon Ju's work. But in his later years, his wrists lacked strength. This piece isn't among his best. Pei Hen's heart sank. He quickly responded and pulled out the second piece. Two would have thought Old Su's next words would freeze the smile right on his face. Isn't this the calligraphy of Wang Feng, the Wu talent? Last month, he personally brought this painting to the door. I didn't even accept it, yet you dug it out. Pei Yuhan was so embarrassed he wished he could crawl into a crack. Almost all the hope in his heart was dashed. The next few pieces, Old Su's critiques grew more and more perfunctory, even a bit impatient. Just as he was about to serve tea and see the guest off, the old man's gaze suddenly froze. This one's as thin as a knife's edge. Damn the generation gap. I've never seen this style in all my years. The brushwork is still a bit green, but the aura clearly has the makings of founding a new school. The author must have created an entirely new script, deliberately breaking away from old methods. That's why it looks a bit raw. Yuhang was completely stunned. The one he had the least hope for was actually favored, but an even bigger surprise came, sneaking into the night with the wind, moistening all things silently. Grandfather, this is praising your transformative teachings. Like spring breeze and rain, nourishing all things. Without a trace. Yet the full artistic conception is revealed. Old Sun listened to his granddaughter's analysis. It struck right to his heart. Good calligraphy, good poem. He ordered the steward to mount the calligraphy and hang it in this study. Then he looked at Pei Heng, who was a bit dazed. Lord Pei, you've put in the effort. His Majesty's envoy will arrive soon. I'll mention the hardships of your marriage escort. Pei Heng was overjoyed, hastily bowing deeply. Amid his wild joy, he also felt a surge of gratitude toward me in his heart. Thinking of King Jun's face, his heart inexplicably stirred. Whose master's hand is this from? Pei Yuheng's expression turned ashen. Old Su, it's no famous master. It was written by that Feng Yunlin who's now overseeing the waterworks. What? Kim, the craftsman he fought only knew rough labor. Could actually write a poem with such depth. Both skilled in water conservancy and able to write calligraphy worthy of founding a school. Just who is this man? If I get the chance, I must meet this young man. In the following days, the Feng family's life settled down. My younger brother found a temporary job at the dock, moving large numbers of cargo boxes every day. Those boxes hit the ground with a crisp sound, probably all silver brought by His Majesty, or perhaps some golden cups and jade goblets. Nowadays, disaster victims are everywhere. Bandits run rampant, yet the rulers still indulge in luxury. But for now, none of that concerns me. Right now, I need to investigate the truth behind the Fang family's wrongful case. However, due to my low status and criminal record, I hit walls everywhere. Just as I was at my wit's end, Pei Yuheng suddenly came to me. Smiling, he thanked me for the calligraphy I'd sent, saying the recipient loved it. Though I'd expected as much, I still humbly demurred. But what surprised me was that to repay me, he gave me an unexpected gift of thanks. It turned out to be evidence of the Fang family's framed case. I owe you a favor, so I'll repay it. I have connections in the palace to dig up old cases. With a bit of trouble, it can be done. He said it lightly, but I knew it wasn't that simple. I thanked him solemnly. I thought this would overturn the case, but favors alone aren't enough. His Majesty's fleet will arrive soon. If you can catch his attention at this critical moment, the case might reach the Emperor directly. I listened without a word, just pondering how to get close to that lord. Pei Yuheng suddenly leaned in. You're a smart man, and talented. It's a pity you're stuck in this small county. He was close. That faint, subtle fragrance drifted into my nose, making me a bit dazed. After meeting Pei Yuheng, I returned home and found that Wei Taishan, who hadn't shown up for days, had come looking for me early, insisting on treating me to a meal to repay my life-saving favor. My mind turned, and I understood. This old fox had tasted the sweetness of my divine predictions and wanted to cozy up to me. I readily agreed. He may be rough around the edges, but he's a local big shot around here. His information network is quite extensive. At the banquet, thanks to your method of clearing the water channels, sir. Now, the riverway is basically open now. Just as the fleet tied to the severed mooring rope was passing through, I thought he'd take a couple days off, but instead he was sent to the dock to receive the imperial escort. After 3 rounds of wine. Sir, could you cast another divination for me? I recall last time's reading said nothing major, and it didn't cost me much, so the fortune teller reluctantly placed his hand on his wrist. After a moment, the scene that flashed before my eyes scared me stiff. Wei Taishan died at the dock where he was receiving the escort. All around were shouts of battle. The image flickered and vanished. Target detected, not yet. Taishan's recent fate, a death tribulation. Time of death, 3 days from now. Method, caught in an assassination. Killed by a flurry of blades. The weight of this fate is significant. This divination consumes 1 year of the user's lifespan. Current remaining lifespan, approximately 10 years and 3 months. My heart sank. This consumption of lifespan far exceeded previous ones. But then I reconsidered. This precisely shows how grave the matter is. If I can alter this fatal outcome, not only can I save Wei Taishan, but it might also affect the Emperor's safety. The lifespan fed back. The rewards and compensation would surely be even greater. Since that was the case, of course, I chose to gamble. Wei Taishan was startled by my deathly pale face. County Magistrate, what's wrong? Don't go to the dock to receive the escort yet. The reception party is already waiting at the dock. Besides, the Imperial guards are stationed there. What could possibly happen? I sighed inwardly. His life is his own. I've said enough on the matter. I hurriedly bid him farewell. My first thought was to rush to the county office. Who knew that after Feng Xianlin heard my words, his face turned green. The escort arrangements were personally supervised by him. The guard deployment was as tight as an iron bucket. Where could the danger come from? He kicked me out on the spot. Don't think that just because you've made some merit, you can spread rumors and confuse the public. I had no choice but to go find Pei Yuheng. Working along the road, I suddenly recalled a detail. My younger brother had said earlier that when unloading at the dock, the sound of the boxes hitting the ground was crisp. That was no imperial tribute. It was clearly swords and blades. When I met Pei Yuheng, at first he didn't believe me either, but as soon as I mentioned those anomalies at the dock, his expression changed. Years of experience navigating officialdom made him instantly alert. He didn't ask how I knew. He directly called over a maidservant and whispered a few instructions, then pulled out a token and handed it to a trusted guard. Seeing his swift and decisive manner, I felt a bit more at ease, but that lingering unease still wouldn't subside. The day of the imperial arrival soon came. At the dock, banners fluttered and crowds bustled. Magistrate Feng looked at the guards in full regalia. With such a formation, what could possibly go wrong? Yet the moment the emperor appeared at the dock, trouble struck. A dozen or so peddler-looking men suddenly threw off the loads on their shoulders, snatched up poison crossbows, and fired. Almost simultaneously, several of the guards maintaining order turned traitor, cutting down their comrades beside them. The defensive line was torn open in an instant. The scene descended into chaos. Magistrate Feng stood frozen, his face ashen. It's over. It really happened. Just at the critical moment, from both sides of the dock, pre-position, guards suddenly charged out. Even from the dragon boat, hidden experts leaped forth. They intercepted the assassins head-on. These were all arranged by Pei Yuheng in advance. A heart-stopping assassination attempt was suppressed in the blink of an eye. The emperor's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He immediately held Magistrate Feng accountable on the spot. Magistrate Feng kowtowed like a pestle-pounding Gallic, sweat pouring down like rain. His mind flashed back to my warning that day. He regretted it to the core. And Pei Yuheng, for his meritorious service in saving the emperor, finally earned the emperor's respect. He breathed a long sigh of relief. His gratitude toward me was beyond words. This divination consumed 12 months of life spent. This fate-altering feedback granted 30 months of life spent. Net charge, 2 years. Lifespan truly gets pricier with greater storms, but even greater surprises lay ahead. When the emperor learned I was skilled in water management and had protected him in the assassination, he summoned me personally. The emperor's eunuch attendant, with a shrill voice, led me in. Entering the hall, I nodded and stepped into the golden splendor hall. All the civil and military officials cast their gazes upon me. After kneeling and paying respects, the emperor stared at me for a long time. Are you the one skilled in water management and capable of thwarting an assassination, Fang Yuanyuan? Your Majesty, I reply. It was merely a stroke of luck. The moment the words fell, the Zhao family censor immediately stepped out of line. Spreading heresy to deceive the masses, and using evil arts to corrupt the righteous path, a grave crime. What are evil arts? What is the righteous path? I cited the Xianxia and the Gundan record of Yu the Great taming the floods, leaving the J-faced official speechless. How should the Yellow River's flooding be managed? Plant trees and conserve soil upstream, dredge and divert the river midstream. Repair and reinforce dikes downstream. And for floods, divert the water into branches. The entire court of officials was stunned, unable to utter a word. The emperor slammed the table, his eyes full of admiration. He was about to speak and bestow rewards, when the Zhao family censor jumped out again, demanding I demonstrate my divination arts on the spot. Otherwise, it would be treason. I knew this was an opportunity. Your Majesty, this guilty subject requests to touch an attendant. The emperor waved his hand, pointing to the eunuch beside him, allowing me to perform the art. I reached out and placed my hand on the eunuch's wrist, heavenly fate compass, activating instantly. Consuming 3 months of life spent, a shocking scene flashed before my eyes. In the imperial kitchen, a eunuch was pouring white powder into a soup. That soup bore the character longevity. It was the emperor's personal tableware. I released my hand, steadied myself, and returned to my position. What have you divined? The imperial kitchen tonight must be thoroughly inspected. The emperor immediately sent men to the imperial kitchen for a full investigation. Half an hour later, the imperial guard commander hurried into the hall. Your Majesty, I report, we have captured a eunuch attempting to poison. The target was the 9th prince's evening meal. The mastermind points directly to the Zhao family's maternal relatives. The Zhao family censor's face turned pale instantly. He collapsed to the ground. My imperial son was saved by you. What reward do you desire? I only beg your Majesty to investigate thoroughly, so that loyal men are not wronged. These words hinted at the Zhao family's false accusations against the Fang family. Point Fang Guanlin as a 7th-rank city magistrate, to be assigned after the river management, is for the Zhao family. I will investigate and handle them myself. Working out of the golden splendor hall, the sky had already darkened. Pei Yuheng was indeed still waiting for me outside the palace gate. Seeing me emerge safely, his eyes flickered, with a hint of concern. Today in the fall, your performance truly impressed me. I smiled, knowing in my heart this was only the beginning. Back at my residence, no sooner had I sat down than someone delivered a letter, signed by Su Yunshu. It was actually Old Master Su's granddaughter. In the letter, she praised my performance in the hall today, then invited me to meet another day. I carefully stored the letter, knowing I had gained another connection. Lying in bed, the system's chant sounded, ding. Altering the 9th prince's fate, consumed 3 months. Feedback reward, 6 months. Net gain, 3 months. Current remaining, approximately 11.5 years. This golden finger truly was an investment. In the court, debating the scholars relied on my past life's accumulation. Predicting the poisoning relied on the system's help. But what truly let me stand firm was that composure. The Zhao family lost a wing this time. Yet they still harbor resentment. And I, after the river management assignment, am precisely approaching the opportunity to get close to the center of power. The currents in the great Kain court run deep. But I am not in a hurry. Since I managed to reach this point step by step, I can climb even higher. Moonlight outside the window was like water. I fell into a deep sleep. In my dreams, there was no earthen boat on the riverbank, only those terrified faces in the Golden Throne Hall. But life in the capital wasn't as smooth as I'd imagined. The post of 7 franc city official was merely an empty title. The ministry kept delaying my assignment, so I stayed at an inn, fretting over the bills every day. When Wai Taishan came looking for me, I was gnawing on a cold flatbread. He'd become a small merchant in the capital. The Zhao family, through their connections with the ministry, had blocked your appointment, and were spreading rumors everywhere, calling you a charlatan. I smiled. This was all within my expectations. Wai Taishan slammed the table. You can't just take this lying down. I asked him to take me for work by the docks to clear my head. At the docks, porters were sweating as they hauled cargo crates. I casually grabbed an old porter's wrist. The Destiny suspension disc activated, consuming 1 year of lifespan. A shocking scene flashed before my eyes. 3 days later, outside the city gate, the Zhao family's thugs lay in ambush, waiting to beat me to death with clubs as I passed by. In the vision, the Zhao family steward was there, directing the ambush himself. I let go of his wrist, steadying myself. The plan formed in my mind. Back at the inn, I immediately went to find Pei Yuheng. After hearing my account, his eyes flickered. How do you always know things before they happen? I've just read a few more books. He gave me a knowing look and didn't press further. I trust you. I'll arrange for guards to follow you in secret immediately. 3 days later, I walked alone toward the city outskirts. Sure enough, a gang of thugs burst out from the woods, led by the Zhao family steward himself. Get him. I took a step back. The hitting guard struck instantly. The thugs, caught off guard, were subdued and captured. The Zhao steward struggled desperately, but was pinned to the ground. The interrogation was conducted through the night under Pei Yuheng's arrangements. The steward couldn't withstand the torture and confessed everything. The Zhao family's years of collusion with canal transport officials, embezzling tribute silver, and framing the Fang family for colluding with river bandits back then, all because my father had stumbled upon their dealings. I clenched my fists, my blood boiling. After years of injustice, there was finally a breakthrough. The steward signed and fingerprinted his confession, and was thrown into prison. The Zhao family, furious upon hearing the news, could do nothing about it. Forced to watch helplessly as justice took its course. Back in the city, Pei Yuheng invited me to a tea house for a private tour. He stared at me for a long time. You have too many secrets on you, but I trust you. I raised my teacup. Her warmth welled up in my heart. Back at the inn, a stone box sat on the table. Opening it, I found delicate pastries inside, along with a note, moistening things silently. A gentleman should be like jade, signed by Su Yunchu. I smiled and tried one. Her craftsmanship was indeed excellent. A system notification chime. Lifespan consumed, 1 year. Lifespan gain from ambush prediction feedback, 3 years. Net gain, 2 years. Current remaining lifespan, approximately 13.5 years. First successful proactive scheme, passive skill unlocked. Crisis perception, can provide early warnings at critical moments. I lay in the bed, feeling much more at ease. The Zhao family had swallowed a bit of lust this time, but they certainly wouldn't let it go. The steward's confession was in hand, justice was within reach, but the ministry was still blocking my appointment. Who exactly was backing the Zhao family? Outside the window, the moonlight was hazy. I closed my eyes. Pei Yuhan's trust, Su Yunchu's goodwill. These were connections I could use in the future, and that passive skill, crisis perception, was a life-saving trump card. The Zhao family wanted to crush me, then I'd show them who would have the last laugh. I wrote a petition through the night, and handed it to Pei Yuhan the next morning to submit to the censorate. The Zhao family get word, and indeed, cornered beasts will fight. They used their connections among the powerful to pressure from all sides, even sent men to threaten Pei Yuhan to mind her own business. He coldly slammed the letter onto the table. I am a palace lady official, and I know what justice means. He turned and pulled another stack of documents from his sleeve. It was a personal letter from Zhao family's Yin King, written to the magistrate of King County. The letter clearly stated to frame the Fang family, to eliminate future trouble. I took the letter. Gratitude welled up in my heart. With this letter, the case had a 70% chance of success, but the censorate's imperial censor was a disciple of the Zhao family. He suppressed the petition, refusing to file the case. It seemed it would be delayed again. Then old Master Du suddenly stepped forward. This imperial tutor to 3 emperors directly petitioned the emperor. If such an injustice is not redressed, what authority does the court have? The emperor was enraged, and issued an edict for a thorough investigation. No delays in the court, and the day the trial finally began, I arrived early. The Zhao family hired the most eloquent barrister from the capital. This case lacks evidence. You cannot rely solely on the Zhao family steward's word to overturn the verdict. And hurried, I stood up and walked to the court. In the river bandits' confession back then, how did they describe the Fang family's boat? One boat, about 3 zhang long. The Fang family had been farmers for generations. Where would they get a boat? The barrister was stunned, stammering, unable to speak. I turned to face the presiding judge. The true owner of that boat was the Zhao family's trading firm. The Zhao family was smuggling grain, and my father courted them. That's why they killed him. With that, I presented the letter Pei Heng had provided, along with testimony obtained from the Zhao family's accountant. The Zhao family accountant personally admitted that the Zhao family had indeed used that boat to transport grain. The barrister's face turned pale. He collapsed into his chair. The Zhao family elders exchanged glances, left speechless. The presiding judge immediately declared the Fang family's injustice redressed. The Zhao family falsely accused innocent people and embezzled grain. The crime was inescapable. The emperor then issued an edict restoring the Fang family's honor. Within 3 generations, they were permitted to take the imperial exams and become officials. As I walked out of the court, my father was already waiting outside. He held my hand, tears streaming down his aged face, unable to speak. My younger brother Feng Minjuan hopped around. Does that mean I can become an official now? Yes, it will all come. I looked up. Ku Heng stood far off at the street corner, a slight smile on her lips as she watched me and nodded gently. On the other side, Su Yunshu had also come, standing under a tree. The 2 women's eyes met. They nodded to each other in greeting, but neither stepped forward to disturb. Warmth surged in my heart. I took my father and brother home. That night, we burned incense and bamboo to honor our ancestors. My father knelt before the ancestral tablets. Ancestors bless us. The Fang family is finally cleared. I kowtowed and offered incense. This is just the beginning. I will make the Fang family even better from now on. The system notification sounded, changed the family's fate. Reward, 2 years of life spent. Current remaining, about 15.5 years. New function unlocked. Fate line tracing. Each month, you can view a target's past key events. Once, I lay in bed, pondering how to use the new function. Though the Zhao family had fallen, they still had backers behind them. The Ministry of Personnel was still blocking my official post. This score would eventually be settled. Moonlight streamed in through the window. I closed my eyes. A smile lingered on my lips. From being a drunken mess on the riverbank to overturning the case to date, this step was hard won, but there was still a longer road ahead. 3 days after the case was overturned, an imperial decree suddenly arrived at the inn, breaking precedent, appointing Fang Guanmen as the Grain Transport Bureau's chief officer, rank 6, in charge of the entire 7-star River's grain transport. My father was so excited he kept wiping his tears. My brother jumped for joy. Great, big brother is an official. I took the imperial decree, but I knew it was a hot potato. The Grain Transport Bureau was a fat post. How many were eyeing it? The Zhao family caused trouble, but their foundation remains untouched. Behind them stands Sun Shaiyan, Vice Minister of the Imperial Guard. Sun Shaiyan is a protege of Grand Chancellor Yan Sunnian. He has secretly manipulated the grain transport for over a decade. On my first day in office, I frowned deeply. The annual grain loss rate is as high as 30%. This number is absurd. Why? Zushin leaned in. There's a lot of dirty business beneath the surface. Come on, take me to the dock to have a look. At the dock, the boatman and stevedores all dodged away when they saw me coming. I grabbed an old boatman and handed him a bowl of wine. Only after drinking did he dare to speak. He haltingly revealed some of the grain transport's shady dealings. I reached out and placed my hand on his wrist. The heavenly fate compass activated. Consumed 2 years of lifespan. Scenes flashed before my eyes, making my heart sink. Sun Chaeyang and the Zhao family colluded to use grain ships to smuggle private salt. Each voyage, 70% was grain, 30% was private salt. That 30% loss was used to cover the salt smuggling. All the salt profits went into Sun Chaeyang and the Zhao family's pockets. I released my grip and steadied myself, my mind already forming a plan. Back at the Yemen, I proposed a new system of segmented transport with rotating inspections. Each dock segment would set up checkpoints to inspect incoming and outgoing ships. This move directly cut off Sun Chaeyang's convenience in controlling the entire transport chain. As expected, Sun Chaeyang couldn't sit still. 3 days later, while inspecting the dock, my heart suddenly tightened. My crisis perception triggered danger from the left. I dodged sideways. A wooden club scraped past my ear and smashed into the ground. Several masked men rushed out from the shadows. Wai Taishan charged forward to shield me and took a slash. I helped him into the warehouse. Fury burning in my heart. Wai Taishan, take off your clothes. I'll wear yours. Curry. Sir, what are you doing? No time to explain. Wear my clothes and leave through the back door. Wai Taishan gritted his teeth and slipped out the back. I put on his clothes and deliberately showed my face. Sure enough, the masked men chased after me. I led them in circles through winding alleys, then slipped into the back wall of Sun Chaeyang's mansion under cover of night. The fate line tracing activated. I viewed Sun Chaeyang's past. The vision showed a hidden compartment in his study, containing an account book. I climbed in through the window, found the compartment, and retrieved the ledger. Inside, it was crystal clear, recording every quantity of private salt and the split of profits, along with every transaction with the Zhao family. Evidence in hand, I quietly slipped out, vanishing into the night. Back at my residence, Pei Yuheng was already waiting at the door. His face was pale. Only when he saw me return did he breathe a sigh of relief. really showing a hint of girlish vulnerability. You're always taking such risks. I smiled and took his hand. With you here, I wouldn't dare die. His cheeks flushed slightly, but he didn't pull his hand away. He bandaged Wei Taishan's wound. That bastard really thought he was cutting me down. I patted his shoulder. I owe you one. The next day, a brocade box appeared on my desk. Opening it, I found a protective talisman sent by Su Yunchu. She had begged it from her grandfather, said to ward off danger. I looked at the young lady's forceful gift. Her warmth welled up in my heart. Consumed 2 years of life spent to uncover the grain transport's dark secrets. Feedback, 4 years of lifespan. Net gain, 2 years of lifespan. Current remaining, about 17.5 years. Crisis perception upgraded. Can now predict danger's direction 3 breaths in advance. I flipped through the private salt ledger, a cold smirk curling at my lips. Sun Xianxia, this time let's see how you escape. But I couldn't strike yet. Grand Chancellor Yan Sunyan's influence was too great. A single account book wouldn't be enough to bring down Sun Xianxia. I had to wait for the right moment. Outside the window, the sky was just beginning to lighten. I closed the ledger, shut my eyes to rest, but my mind was already plotting the next move. The secret ledger was delivered to the Emperor through Pei Yuheng's trusted channels. 3 days later, an imperial decree arrived, ordering the investigation of Sun Xianxia. I breathed a sigh of relief. I thought this time it was settled. But the next day, the court's wind suddenly shifted. Grand Chancellor Yan Sunyan personally stepped in to defend Sun Xianxia. I believe the evidence is insufficient, and the case should be re-examined. What was worse, he ordered the censors to impeach me. I report to your majesty. Chen Tan and Fang Guanman abused their authority, illegally searching the residence of a court official. In the court, the two factions clashed fiercely, arguing endlessly. The emperor wanted to protect me, but Yan Sunyan's power was too great. More than half of the civil and military officials were his disciples. In the end, the emperor could only shelve the matter temporarily. Sun Xianxia and I were transferred from the grain transport office and reassigned to idle posts. The day the imperial decree came down, I stood outside the government office, expressionless. Taishan was so angry he stamped his feet. Damn this injustice. I patted his shoulder, turned around, and went back to the inn. Closing the door, I sat by the window. I had evidence and reason, yet I couldn't topple Sun Xianxia. Because Yan Sunyan held power. In the face of absolute power, evidence and reason are pale. I must gain greater power to completely bring down these people, to create a sky for my father and younger brother. The next day, I visited Su Chu, under the pretext of seeking advice on water conservancy, but in truth, I wanted to see old Su. Su Yunchu opened the door. Seeing me arrive, her eyes lit up. Grandfather is just in the study. Old Su was very pleased to see me, and pulled me into a discussion on water conservancy of the previous dynasty. Taking the chance, I sought his advice in the court situation. Old Su stroked his beard and was silent for a long time. Do you know why Yan Sunyan has dominated the court for 20 years? I shook my head. Because he has thoroughly grasped the emperor's heart, and what the emperor's heart is tied to, is nothing more than the 4 words, the empire and the state. A sudden clarity dawned in my heart. Old Su stopped at that point, and said no more. He got up and went to the backyard to admire the flowers. Su Yunchu brought tea in. Seeing me lost in thought, she asked, "What are you thinking about?" I looked up at her, and suddenly had an idea. "Can I come often to borrow books from your library?" His cheeks flushed slightly. "You're always welcome." After that, Su Yunchu frequently visited my residence, under the pretext of delivering books for her grandfather, but in truth, she wanted to see me more. Each time, she would sit down with a few ancient texts, discussing poetry, calligraphy, and painting. She was surprised to find that I was well versed in the anecdotes of the previous dynasty. Occasionally, I could even offer insights that refreshed her perspective. "Where did you learn all this?" "In my dreams, an old man taught me." She called me a liar again. But I could see something new in her eyes. Pei Yuheng also sensed something was off. That day she came to the inn, and saw the books Su Yunchu had sent on my table. She was silent for a moment, then looked up at me. "If you like, Miss Su, I won't stop you." I looked at her, this cold, beautiful woman of the palace, whose eyes now held a softness I had never seen before. I took her hand. "You and Miss Su, to me, are both important people in my life. I don't want to let either of you down." She froze, staring at me for a long time. Finally, she sighed. "I should have known. A man like you, how could I alone possess you?" With that, she turned and left, her back looking somewhat lonely. I wanted to chase after her, but didn't know what to say. That night, I picked up my brush and wrote a memorial. Using modern water conservancy engineering techniques from my past life, I proposed a strategy to control the Yellow River's flooding, constrict the water to scour the sand, reinforce the dikes and plant trees, and divert the flood to relieve pressure. Each point was written clearly, and the 4th day at court, I presented the memorial. The emperor was overjoyed after reading it, and slammed the table, rising. Excellent. Constrict the water to scour the sand. Excellent. Divert the flood to relieve pressure. Fang Guanman, this is true talent for governing the nation. Someone passed the decree. Appoint Fang Guanman to oversee the Yellow River Control Project. Full authority to deploy personnel. Former Minister Yan Sunnin's face turned ashen, yet he could not refute it. Governing the Yellow River is a matter of state. He dared not obstruct it. All the civil and military officials cast sidelong glances. Those censors who had sided with me earlier exchanged bewildered looks. I knelt and kowtowed, accepting the decree, knowing full well that I had won this round. Due to triggering the main quest to the Yellow River City, completion grants substantial reward points, unlocks the special title, Master of River Taming, grants the new ability, Vein Perception, allows sensing of underground water sources and geological structures. I withdrew from the Golden Gate Hall. The sky had already darkened. Pei Yuhang stood outside the palace gates, waiting for me. Seeing me emerge, his eyes flickered. I knew you would find a way. I still owe you my thanks. He shook his head, no longer mentioning Su Yunshu's matter. Be careful, Yan Sannin will not let this go easily. I nodded. The Yellow River City is the true battlefield. There, the mountains are high and the Emperor is far away. Yan Sannin will surely resort to underhanded tactics, but I have vain perception and a crisis warning instinct, along with over a decade of water conservancy expertise from my past life. It remains uncertain who will laugh last. Back at my lodgings, Su Yunshu's letter had already arrived, with only 4 words. Be cautious in all things. I tucked the letter away and lay in the bed. Moonlight outside the window was like water, yet countless forts churned in my mind. This Yellow River project is a tough nut to crack, but if I pull it off, it will be a monumental achievement. Then even Yan Sannin cannot block my promotion. Sun Cheyan, that score will also be settled. On the 3rd day after the imperial decree, I set out with my younger brother Fang Minjuan and Wai Taishan, heading west all the way to the banks of the Yellow River. This was a preliminary survey for the river taming project. I bore the Emperor's heavy trust on my shoulders, and also felt the cold, watchful gaze of Yan Sannin. We arrived at the Yellow River shore at dusk. The muddy waters rolled eastward in surging currents. I stood on the embankment, activating vein perception. The soil structure beneath my feet became vividly clear in my mind. Soon, I found the most suitable spot to build the dam, where the riverbed was narrowest, and the foundation most stable. The next day, I gathered local craftsmen to begin work. But local officials started making trouble. Materials were delayed endlessly. Stone and timber were all held up in the warehouses. Craftsmen were gradually reassigned elsewhere, claiming urgent need in other areas. Wai Taishan cursed angrily. Someone is pulling strings behind the scenes. I sneered, knowing full well this was undoubtedly Yan Sannin's doing. I had to write letters myself, borrowing materials from neighboring prefectures and counties. Fang Minjuan followed me every day, running back and forth, getting tanned and blackened. At night in the tent, he sighed. This is more exhausting than working on the riverbank. I patted his head. Just endure, and it will pass. 3 days later, the materials were finally gathered. The craftsmen gradually returned and work began. The dam rose day by day. I breathed a sigh of relief, but suddenly, my crisis sense twitched. I became alert, looked around but found nothing unusual. I could only warn Fang Minjuan and Wai Taishan to stay vigilant at night. That night, I slept very deeply. The exhaustion of previous days finally caught up with me. Suddenly, a rumbling sound jolted me awake. Outside the tent, someone shouted, "The flood is coming." I rushed out of the tent, only to see towering muddy waves bearing down on us. The river water poured in madly through the unfinished gap in the dam. The campsite was instantly flooded. Tents, timber, and people were swept away in case. I grabbed a wooden stake. Minjuan. Wai Taishan. Wai Taishan was not far away, clutching a lug. Sir. Run. I searched everywhere but couldn't find Fang Minjuan. Suddenly, I saw him swept up by a wave and carried downstream. Minjuan was submerged by the floodwaters. I swam downstream with all my might. Time and again, I was knocked over by the waves, and time and again, I surfaced. After who knows how long, I finally grabbed hold of reeds by the shore. Climbing onto the bank, my whole body trembled. My lips turned purple, but I didn't dare rest. I ran wildly along the riverbank, searching, running and shouting, "Minjuan! Fate!" The only reply was the sound of rushing water. After running over 30 li, the sky was already faintly bright. Finally, among the chaotic rocks in the riverbank, I saw a familiar figure. Fang Minjuan lay there. At that moment, he was drenched through, his face deathly pale as he lay there. I rushed over and lifted him into my arms. My hands trembled as I checked him. His breath was still there, but extremely faint. His entire body was ice-cold, his lips turning blue, and there were multiple wounds on his body. Holding him, I raged at the system for the first time. Tell me, will he die? The system was silent for a moment. Ding. Target Fang Minjuan is currently in critical condition. Post must make physical contact to glimpse his fate. Trembling, I grasped my younger brother's hand. Before my eyes, a scene flashed. He was rescued by an old physician, but due to the severity of his injuries, he would pass away 3 days later. My eyes turned bloodshot. I want to change his fate. Tell me how. Ding. Changing Fang Mingyuan's fate will consume 5 years of lifespan. Additionally, you must reach the divine physician Qin Hiao within 12 hours. Qin Hiao is a contemporary doctor who roams the world. His whereabouts uncertain. Consuming my strength, I carried Fang Mingyuan and madly activated the Earth Pulse Perception System, which guided the direction. I ran without stopping, crossing 3 mountain peaks, and wading through 2 rivers. At dawn on the 4th day, I saw curling smoke in a mountain hollow. In front of a thatched hut, an old man with white hair was drying medicinal herbs. I rushed over, carrying Fang Mingyuan, and fell to my knees with a thud before him. I beg you, save my brother. The old man turned to look at me, his gaze falling on Fang Mingyuan's face. You are a man of fate. I kowtowed with all my strength, my forehead striking the ground. The old man sighed. Bring him inside the house. The treatment took another full 2 hours. Fang Mingyuan's face finally regained some color. The old man wiped his sweat. Your brother is lucky to be alive. Half an hour later, and even the gods couldn't have saved him. I knelt and kowtowed again, tears streaming down my aged face. Ding. Consumed 5 years of lifespan. Lifespan changed by fate. Local feedback 10 years. Net gained 5 years. Current remaining lifespan approximately 22.5 years. New feature unlocked. Life sharing. Can consume your own lifespan to extend another's life. Limited to once per month. Carrying Fang Mingyuan, I walked out of the thatched hut. The sunlight was just right. Wai Taishan limped over, searching for us. I thought you brothers were both done for. It's fine now. Returning to the camp, it was a complete miss. The craftsmen were clearing away the mud. I stood at the breach and observed carefully, discovering traces of deliberate damage at the gap. The wooden stakes had been sawed off. The ropes cut. This wasn't a natural disaster. This is man-made. Which son of a bitch did this? Who else could it be? Yansannian is trying to kill me. That night, Pei Yuheng suddenly appeared at the camp. She was covered in dust, her face pale. Seeing that both Fang Mingyuan and I were alive, she lost her composure in front of others for the first time, holding me tightly, scared me to death. It's okay. Looking up, I saw Su Yunshu standing not far away. She walked over silently, took the medicine pot for Fang Mingyuan, and began to brew the medicine. She didn't say a word. The 2 women divided the work tacitly. One took care of Fang Mingyuan, the other took care of Pei Yuheng. Yuheng helped bandage the wound on my hand. Su Yunshu held the medicine bowl, ready to feed Fang Mingyuan. Watching them busy themselves, my heart surged with infinite gratitude. In this life, no matter what, I cannot let these 2 down. 3 days later, the emperor learned the truth about the breach. I decree a thorough investigation into Yansannian's hiring of thugs to destroy the dam. Although Yansannian managed to wash his hands clean, the emperor's trust in him had already been shaken. I stood by the Yellow River, gazing at the repaired dike. Yansannian, this debt will be settled sooner or later, and it will be paid back with interest. Par for year passed. The Yellow River Dam was finally completed. The last cartload of stone was filled into the closure gap. The people on both banks erupted in thunderous cheers. I stood atop the dike, watching the Tane River. These 6 months, traveling day and night, how many times did I brush with death? Finally, it has brought today's peace. The people along the river spontaneously offered sacrifices. Amid the swirling incense smoke, I heard them shouting Fang Qingshan. The news reached the capital. The emperor was overjoyed. He personally traveled south to inspect the Yellow River. Standing on the dam, looking at the Dussel River below, the emperor patted my shoulder and said, Good. He decreed, promote Fang Guanlin to Vice Minister of Public Works, rank 3, and bestow the golden plaque Sage of Water Control. I knelt and kowtowed. Out of the corner of my eye, I swept over the attending officials. Yansannian stood among the crowd, his face ashen. I knew he couldn't sit still. In the road back to the capital, my danger sense suddenly screamed a frantic warning. Ahead, an ambush of no fewer than 30 assassins lay in wait. I made an immediate decision to take the water route and detour. 3 days later, I arrived safely at the west gate of the capital. Those assassins waited at the pass for a full 5 days. Yansannian wanted my life. The next day after returning, at the morning court, I held my memorial and stood in the Golden Gate Hall. I presented it publicly. The complete chain of evidence for the Sun Chaeyong 4 Leaves case. Account books, letters, witness testimony, confessions all complete. I never agreed to let you take all 3 beasts. The correspondence in which Yansannian shielded his proteges over the years. Yansannian flew into a rage. He ordered his cronies to besiege me, claiming I had slandered a court official. With malicious intent, the censors leaped out of formation one after another, spittle flying everywhere, but I remained unhurried. I opened the Great Ming Code and refuted them point by point. Every word was reasonable. Every phrase struck home. Every statute I had memorized flawlessly. Every piece of evidence fit perfectly. Those censors were refuted into silence. Yansannian's face alternated between green and white. His whole body trembled. At the critical moment, old Su stood up shakily. This 2 to 3 emperors spoke in a low voice, yet every word carried the weight of 1,000 pounds. I personally witnessed Yan Sunnin tampering with the late emperor's edict. Back then, the late emperor intended to appoint another prince, but Yan Sunnin colluded with an eunuchs to alter the edict. The entire court was in an uproar. The emperor's face turned. Ishan. He ordered a search of Chancellor Yan Sunnin's mansion. Soon, the imperial guards, from a desk compartment in Yan Sunnin's study, they retrieved the late emperor's original edict and evidence of tampering. The ironclad evidence was like a mountain. Yan Sunnin collapsed to the ground. The chancellor who once held sway over the court, now lay on the floor like a dead dog. Strip Yan Sunnin of all official posts, throw him into the imperial prison, and behead him on a chosen day. Sun Chaoyun is an accomplice, will have his property confiscated and be executed. The Zhao family will be wiped out entirely, not once spared. I stood in the court, watching those once lofty nobles have their official hats removed one by one, escorted out of the Golden Gate Hall. Yet in my heart, there was no joy as I had imagined. Before his eyes, scenes flashed back, eating dirt on the riverbank back then. My father's despairing eyes, my little brother desperately grabbing for a flatbread, and those companions who died on the riverbank. The emperor descended from the dragon throne, personally helped me up, saying, "My beloved minister, with you, I am like a fish in water." I knelt and kowtowed, knowing in my heart that all of this was finally over. As I worked out of the Golden Gate Hall, the sky had already darkened. Pei Heng stood outside the palace gate waiting for me. He was really in plain clothes, a simple, elegant robe. When he saw me come out, his eyes shimmered. "Tonight, I'll cook to welcome you back." Under the staff's escort, I followed him to his residence. Pushing open the door, on the table were 4 dishes and a soup. Seeming hot, he was busy in front of the stove, wearing an apron. The cold and aloof palace lady was gone. Only a woman waiting for her beloved to return remained. I stood at the door and watched for a long time. A warmth I had never felt before surged in my heart. The door was knocked again. Su Yunshu entered, carrying a small jar. It's plum blossom wine I brewed myself, to welcome Lord Feng and wash away the dust of travel. The 3 of us sat facing each other, candlelight flickering on the table. "Feng Guanlin, you are now a third-rank official. It's time to start a family." Su Yunshu lowered her head and remained silent. The blush spread across her cheeks. I looked at the 2 women. "If you are both willing, Feng Guanlin will never betray your affections in this life." Tei Yuheng was stunned. She stared at me for a long time. Su Mei lifted her head. Tears glistened in her eyes. The 2 women exchanged a glance and said nothing, but the affection in their eyes said it all. That night, we drank a lot of wine. The plum blossom wine was sweet on the lips, but its aftertaste lingered long. Pei Yuhen's cheeks flushed red from drinking. She leaned on my shoulder. "I've waited too long for this day." Su Mei lay slumped on the table, her eyes drowsy. She mumbled something, but I couldn't make it out. I carried them one by one into the house. Then I sat alone in the courtyard, gazing at the star-filled sky. Ding! Main quest, arrive at the Imperial City. Completed. Reward, 10 years of lifespan. Current remaining, approximately 32 years. Special title, Marquis of Flood Control. Permanently enhances perception range of earth veins. Side quest, overthrow Yan Zyro. Completed. Reward, 8 years of lifespan. Unlocks new ability, Fate Intervention. Can consume lifespan. Slightly alter the destiny of others. Limited to once per month. I closed my eyes. From a drunken slave on the riverbank to today's third-rank official, a smile lingered on my lips. From being bullied by others to owning the entire alley, every step was hard-won. But I finally made it to today. Thinking of my father and younger brother living peacefully now. Thinking of Pei Yuheng and Su Yunshu's affection. A sense of fulfillment I had never known surged in my heart. The sky's edge began to pale with dawn. I stood up and stretched my limbs. A new day had begun. After Yan Sunnin fell from power, I took over as Minister of Revenue. At 26, I became the youngest minister in Dakin's history. The court was shaken, but no one dared to utter a word of dissent. My achievements at the Imperial City stood as proof. No one could erase them. My first act in office was to implement new policies, reform the grain transport system, plug loopholes in private transactions, build new irrigation projects across the land, reduce the tax burden on the common people. In just half a year, the national treasury was full. Granaries were overflowing. The people praised me as Fang the Just and Living Voter. Wai Taishan was now my capable right-hand man. He ran around daily, overseeing various affairs. Dai Difeng Minjuan had also grown a lot. He studied at the Imperial Academy. The master said he had potential. My father moved into a grand mansion. He spent his days playing with his grandchildren. His smile was brighter than in all the decades past. But beneath the court's surface, undercurrents churned. Some began to impeach me for forming factions. They claimed the entire Ministry of Revenue was my people. The emperor did not punish me, but he gradually grew distant. The number of summons dwindled. My memorial sat yonder in the palace. I keenly sensed the approaching danger. A new Taoist had appeared by the emperor's side. He claimed to divine the nation's fate and understand the mysteries of yin and yang. He spent every day with the emperor, refining elixirs and discussing doctrine. That Taoist was a remnant of Yan Sunnin's faction. He had been lying low for a long time, all to sow discord between us. I sneered coldly, a plan forming in my mind. The next morning at court, I stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, I humbly request an external post to inspect the realm, see the results of the new policies, and observe the people's hardships." The emperor hesitated. His eyes flickered uncertainly. Fang Guanlin, is this a retreat disguised as an advance? With flickering eyes, Fang Guanlin was retreating in order to advance, under the guise of an inspection. In truth, plotting treachery, I knelt on the spot and said, "I dare not compete with the Taoist priest. If I lose, I will gladly resign and return home. If I win, please, Your Majesty, hear my words." The emperor nodded in approval. The Taoist, however, feigned profundity, muttering incantations while counting on his fingers. I stepped before the emperor, requesting to touch the dragon's body. The emperor extended his hand. My fingertips touched his wrist, and the life-phasing disc activated. It consumed 3 months of life force. Before my eyes flashed a scene in the imperial garden. 3 days later, while the emperor admired flowers, an assassin would rush out from behind the rockery, and the assassin's face, it was unmistakably the Taoist's acolyte. I let go of his wrist. With a calm expression, I turned to the Taoist. 3 days hence, in the imperial garden, there will be an assassin. That assassin is your acolyte. Bloody slander. The emperor was half convinced, half doubtful, but secretly made preparations. 3 days later, in the imperial garden, the emperor pretended to admire flowers. Sure enough, the acolyte rushed out from behind the rockery, dagger in hand. The guard swarmed in and captured him on the spot. Under interrogation, the acolyte confessed the Taoist had orchestrated it. The Taoist was Yan Sunnin's remnant, seeking revenge after years of lurking. The emperor was enraged. The Taoist was executed on the spot. After that day, the emperor summoned me to the imperial study. Minister Feng, I nearly believed the slander of a petty man and run a loyal subject. Your Majesty is wise. I would serve you even unto death. From this day forward, you shall be Grand Secretary and pillar of the state. I bowed my head and accepted the decree, knowing in my heart that this step was finally complete. On the way back to the mansion, Heng was waiting for me in the carriage, scared me to death. Those days when the emperor distanced himself from you, I couldn't sleep night after night. It's all in the past now. Back at the mansion, Su Yunshu came out to greet me. I was so worried something would happen to you. I took one hand of each and led them through the gate. That evening, I made a decision. The next morning at court, your servant begs your majesty to grant a marriage. The emperor laughed heartily. Minister Feng, you've finally spoken. I thought you'd be a bachelor for life. You mean to wed Feng Guanlan to pay you Heng and Su Yunshu, both as equal wives, with no distinction of rank. All the court officials offered their congratulations. The wedding day was set for 3 days later. For those 3 days, the mansion was decked with lanterns and banners, everyone busy as bees. Wei Taishan bustled about arranging the banquet. My younger brother Feng Minjuan eagerly volunteered as best man. My father smiled so wide his mouth couldn't close. On the wedding day, the capital was deserted. Everyone had come out. The commoners crowded along the streets, vying for a glimpse. Ku Heng emerged from the palace in phoenix coronet and embroidered robes. Su Yunshu, equally resplendent, set out from the Su residence. 2 bridal sedan chairs arrived at my mansion gate simultaneously. I lifted the curtain of each with one hand, gazing at the 2 beautiful brides, my heart surging with endless emotion. During the ceremony, first bow to heaven and earth, second bow to the parents. When it came time for the couple to bow to each other, I bowed once to each side. The entire hall of guests burst into laughter. When it was time to enter the bridal chamber, the master of ceremonies announced, "First, the eastern chamber." I went first to the eastern wing. In Pei Yuheng's room, red candles flickered. He sat by the bed, his veil hanging low. I gently lifted the veil. He raised his eyes to meet mine. Finally, I've waited for this. All the days of my life from now on are yours. We drank the nuptial wine. I should go to the western wing now. Don't keep them waiting too long. I arrived at the western wing. Su Yunshu was also sitting upright by the bed. I lifted his veil. Tears glistened in his eyes. I thought I could only watch you from afar for the rest of my life. What nonsense are you talking? From now on, I'll be with you every day. We drank the nuptial wine. Till now, tea's waiting for you. I returned to the eastern wing. Ku Heng had already changed into a light robe. By candlelight, his skin was like jade. His eyes were like water. I sat down by the bed. He leaned into my embrace. Tonight, you are mine. Every night from now on, the moonlight outside your window will be like water. Inside the window, red candles flickered. That night held endless tenderness. In the dead of night, I quietly got up and went to the west wing. Su Yun said he hadn't slept yet. Hearing the door, he sat up. I slipped into his bed. He let out a soft sigh and rested on my chest. I thought you weren't coming. How could I? My palm pressed against his back. His body trembled lightly. That night, I went back and forth between the east and west wings several times. We didn't fall into deep sleep until the sky turned pale. When I woke up, I had two beauties in my arms. Ku Hang was sleeping soundly, her head resting on my right arm. Su Yan curled up against my left shoulder. Her breathing was steady. I looked at them. From the most destitute on the riverbank to today's chief minister. From being alone to having beloved wives in my arms. This journey. It was worth it. Ding. Main quest, become the first minister, completed. Reward, 20 years of lifespan. Current remaining, approximately 45 years. Special item, destiny token. Can extend your own lifespan by 10 years. All side quests completed. The system is about to enter hibernation mode. Unlocked functions will be retained. The host may continue to use them. I looked at the system panel. With this golden finger, not only can I protect myself and my family, but I can also do more for the people of this great realm. Sunlight streamed in through the window. Ku Heng woke up, rubbed her eyes, and looked at me. Su Yunshu also woke up. She nuzzled against my chest. Time to get up. Today, we still need to enter the palace to thank the emperor. The two women rose and helped each other dress. One handed me my robe. The other fastened my belt. I looked left, then right. Days like this are truly wonderful. At the palace audience, the emperor said, Minister Feng, do your best. Our great Kain relies on you. I would serve you even unto death. As I left the palace, the sunlight was perfect. The breeze was gentle. Ku Heng and Su Yunshu were waiting for me outside the palace gate. Seeing me emerge, they came up and took my arms, one on each side. The people of the capital city turned their heads. That's Chief Minister Fang. So young, yet already holding such high office. And he married two beautiful wives. Truly a winner in life. I smiled, put my arms around them, and helped them into the carriage. The carriage slowly headed toward the chief minister's residence. Su Yunshu leaned against my shoulder. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten since morning. When we get back, I'll cook for you. I held their hands. Warmth filled my heart. The days of eating plain porridge on the riverbank. The days of facing death in the court. It's all in the past now. Now, I am the chief minister of Great Kayan. I have beloved wives by my side. I hold power in my hands. And I have my golden finger to rely on. The rest of my life is still long. Let's work slowly. Outside the window, the people on both sides of the street cheered. I opened the carriage curtain and waved to them. The two women leaned close to me. Their smiles bloomed like flowers.